The inside story on the issues that affect you and your community. This is Local 12 Newsmakers.
Good morning and welcome to Local 12 Newsmakers. I'm Dan Hurley. The Republicans wrapped up their convention last week in Cleveland. This week, the Democrats have their opportunity to officially nominate Hillary Clinton and make their case to the nation why she and her running mate should lead the country forward. Last week, I was joined by two Republican convention delegates on the eve of their convention. This morning, I'm joined by two local delegates headed to Philadelphia for their big party. Chris Seelbach is a member of the Cincinnati City Council and will be a delegate to the Democratic National Convention pledged to Hillary Clinton. Kelly Schroeder, a college student at The Ohio State University, is a delegate pledged to Bernie Sanders. Welcome to both of you.
Thanks for
Chris,
having us.
welcome back to Newsmakers. Kelly, I kind of understand how Chris ends up being a delegate to the Democratic National Convention. How did you get here?
That's a good question. A little bit of background about me. I grew up in a very conservative county in a very conservative family. So I think it's kind of interesting that I turned out to be a Democrat. But once I entered high school, I kind of realized that my morals didn't line up with my political affiliation. So I kind of became a Democrat and became very progressive and very liberal. And then when I graduated high school, one of my friends offered me the opportunity to start the Warren County Young Democrats, which was a bit ambitious in such a conservative area. But that really sparked my political interests.
But then why Bernie Sanders?
Why Bernie Sanders? I feel like he appeals to the youth. Like, obviously he appeals to millennials. And I think that's because he speaks to us. He speaks to us about issues that matter and issues that we truly care about.
Chris, it's not lost on me, and I of course could have set this up in a variety of different ways, but I have a woman who's supported Bernie Sanders, and I have a man supporting Hillary Clinton, who will be the first major party women's candidate. Why Hillary Clinton for you?
You know, I supported Hillary Clinton in 2008 before Barack Obama won the nomination, and I think she is just simply the most prepared person, experienced person to be president in these times. From First Lady of Arkansas to First Lady of the Nation to United States Senator and Secretary of State, she has, I think, what it takes and probably perhaps the most experienced person to fill the shoes of the president in our lifetime. So, you know, I think that not only does she align politically with me, I just think that she has what it takes to run our country in these times.
Well, you know, one of the things, though, is that line that she's the best prepared, and the President Obama has used that line. The Republicans have sort of turned that on her. And it's my observation that to some extent, she sort of has to be defending three administrations. Her husband's two, and Barack Obama's one, the one that she served in, and maybe even two. So she comes at this race sort of as an old hand, even though she's never been president. It's like a second term for some presidents. This is like, you know, and so people are well known and they can ask all those questions about what did you do here and what didn't you do there and whatever. It puts her in a very different position.
I mean, if we want to talk about Bill Clinton's term as president, I mean, I'm glad to do that. I mean, the economy was booming. We weren't going to war with multiple countries. I think people thought it was a pretty good time in the 90s. So I think it's a good record to defend if she has to.
Okay. What's your reaction? Because now Bernie Sanders has come out several weeks ago and formally supported Hillary Clinton for president. How do you feel about that after you work for Bernie Sanders, you're headed to the convention, pledged to him? How do you feel about getting behind Hillary Clinton?
I mean, obviously, I was disappointed that Bernie won't be the nominee, but I had seen it coming for quite a while. I think that he was very strategic in his endorsement of Hillary. I think that it was very good that he waited so long and that he made the most progressive platform that the DNC has ever seen. So I mean, obviously I'm disappointed, but I feel not content, but at peace with it, I guess.
Okay. And do you imagine yourself, from what you're saying, do you imagine yourself voting for Hillary Clinton?
Yes, in the general election.
Yes, and do you imagine yourself working for Hillary Clinton?
Yes, actually, I am a fellow for the Ohio Democratic Party right now. So I am working for the coordinated campaign, which does include Hillary Clinton. So yes, I could see myself working for her. I think that it's just important work, and I can't justify not doing it.
Chris, when watching the Republican convention this past week, that was a theme of how do you bring a party with lots of people who support it, lots of different people, and there's ideals and all that kind of stuff. How do you bring that party together? Are you worried about that? I mean, because on Thursday night, when Donald Trump made his speech, he had a passage in there where he argued that Bernie Sanders voters were going to come over and support him. Are you worried about a unified Democratic Party?
I'm not. I think the Democratic Party is 1,000 times more unified than the Republicans. And just like in 2012 and 2008, we've come together even when your candidate doesn't win. We've come together and we'll do it again this time to get behind Hillary Clinton. I don't think that anyone that supported Bernie Sanders is going to think that somehow Donald Trump is the better candidate than Hillary, even if they're disappointed that Bernie is not the nominee. So I think you'll see a much more unified party. I mean, you know, the governor of Ohio, a Republican, didn't even attend the Republican convention in his own state. You're not going to see that with the Democrats. All the major players who are invited and want to be there are going to be there.
So, given the tone of the Republican convention this past week, which was, it was as much an I won't say as much, it was very heavily anti-Hillary Clinton as well as pro Donald Trump. And the, you know, put her in jail, the all of those sorts of chants that came in. It was a very, the vitriol on the floor of that convention. How do you think the Democrats should respond to that this week? What should be the tone of the Democratic convention? And what do you expect the tone to be?
Well, the Republican National Convention was very hostile, and I think that it's important that the Democrats show that they're a unified front and that we do not have the characteristics that make the Republican Party.
Well, not just the unified front, but the sort of, some people were describing the Thursday night talk as very dark, very pessimistic.
And lacking substance.
And,
I mean,
so, you know, should the Democrats have a big section of underthread of Donald Trump and attacking Donald Trump?
No, I think that the Democratic National Convention will be focusing on the future and focusing how to make it better. The Republicans are focusing on how America is terrible now and super liberal now and all the things that they want to do to push us back, really. And I think that the Democrats will really focus on pushing us forward.
You just said, you know, lacking substance. Kelly earlier said something about by Bernie Sanders staying in the process was able to push the positions of the Democratic Party into a more progressive stream. What is it that you think the Democrats are holding out this year that really will resonate with voters?
I mean, you know, I want to hear about the plan forward and how we're going to exactly do it. You know, the Trump campaign and you know, it focused much more on Hillary and sound bites that didn't mean more than what they said. And so I want to hear from the Democrats, and I know that we will, of exactly what is your plan for the economy, putting people back to work. What is your plan for keeping us safe at home and abroad? And I think we will hear specifics of how they're going to do that. So I think that will be the change. I mean, of course, we're going to talk about the fact that if Donald Trump becomes president, it's going to be pretty bad for a lot of people who are different, anyone that's different. And I think will make us less safe as a nation and a world. But I think you'll see the speakers focus much more on the future and Hillary Clinton and specific plans for our country.
You know, that's one of the things that struck me, that there wasn't ever sort of getting down into the meat of the platform at the Republican convention. It's one thing to be against, you know, to wanting to tear up NAFTA, to being against these trade agreements, which traditionally the Republican Party has been for. Rob Portman was the
Mr. Trade.
Yeah, it was ahead of that whole process for the second President Bush. So, and the Democrats, beginning with NAFTA and Bill Clinton, have been behind opening up trade. So on a very specific issue like that, Bernie Sanders also attacked these sorts of trade agreements. What's your view about that?
I think that it's the true progressive way. Hillary Clinton actually changed her position when it comes to the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and so I think that when you cut to the meat of it, that is truly what's behind the Democratic platform. But in the Democratic platform, they did not address that, and when I get to the convention, I hope to, I don't know, get a stronger opposition to the TPP.
So for you, opposition to the TPP is very important,
yes,
even though President Obama has been supporting it.
Yes, that's correct.
How do you feel about
Well,
this?
and I think this is why contested primaries are good, because Bernie Sanders did push Hillary Clinton closer to a value that a lot of progressives share. So I think that's a good impact that Bernie Sanders has had on the race. I agree. We have to be very close and careful with trade so that we're not losing good American jobs to very low wage jobs over in other countries. So it's absolutely something that I think that Bernie Sanders has been a positive impact on this race as a result of that.
Do you imagine that Hillary Clinton can lead the process of changing the way we approach trade and these international agreements, since she has been tied up herself with these for decades?
I mean, look, she's not going to be this change agent that Bernie Sanders may have been as president, but I do think that she is going to be much better than a Donald Trump as president, and maybe even some who would say that Obama has not been as on this issue as some progressives would like. So I do think she will be better, but no extremes either way, like Donald Trump may be on this issue, or that perhaps Bernie Sanders would be. She's not an extreme candidate.
You see her as a centrist.
I do. I mean, I think our country mostly, it has been, although because of the dialogue and the leaders who have been running, I think we've been going further and further away from that. But I think most people are slow and steady, and I think Hillary is a good candidate for those.
Kelly, I want to play a little soundbite from Ivanka Trump on Thursday night, and come back to you with something. So let's take a look at this.
Like many of my fellow millennials, I do not consider myself categorically Republican or Democrat. More than party affiliation, I vote based on what I believe is right for my family and for my country. Sometimes it's a tough choice. That is not the case this time.
Okay, millennials, that's you. Your friends. Do you agree that a lot of millennials aren't necessarily committed to one party or the other?
I feel like most of them identify as Democrat, but they might not necessarily be tied into the Democratic Party, but they definitely are not Republican. And I agree with Ivanka in that it's a clear choice who to vote for this upcoming election. So
she didn't clarify in that sentence.
So we definitely have that in common. So
do you see a way of talking to the millennials who really turned out for Bernie Sanders? Is that something, when you go back to school, that there's going to be a concerted effort to make sure that voice gets out there to millennials?
Oh yes, for sure, and especially as a Bernie delegate, I feel like I have that influence of bringing people to the Democratic Party, and I plan to use that as much as I can. So that's why I'm working for the ODP, and that's why I'm working for Hillary right now, is because I think it's so important that we rally behind the Democratic Party, regardless of who you supported in the primary. Hillary Clinton will be better than Donald Trump, and that's
Chris, have you been to
I have. This will be my third.
This will be your third convention. What else happens at conventions besides what we see on TV?
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, there's tons of parties and meetings and networking, but you're really up and close and personal with all the people that you see on, CNN and Fox News and in the White House and governors and senators. I mean, there's a lot of one-on-one interaction with the big players of the party that you're there for. So, it's just a really exciting event and an exciting week, and it's a nonstop as well. There's very little sleep.
Very little. In fact, we were talking about that as we were walking in the studio. You've seen the schedule,
yep.
And they haven't scheduled much time for sleep.
No, there's about 3 or 4 hours a night.
Because these breakfast meetings are very important, and we've seen that in the Republican convention as well, that there are major speeches being given at the Republican convention. So networking, basic part of politics is people coming together and knowing each other. And you've been around for a while. Do you have a network that goes throughout Ohio, and is this the time that you sort of build that? It
is. I mean, absolutely. This is the time to, meet other people in Ohio, meet the movers and shakers, the people that are, helping make our state a better place, and a place that, Democrats can be elected and share those values. As we know, the entire legislature is controlled by Republicans. All of the statewide office holders are Republicans. So the Democrats have a lot in store for us, and I think there will be a lot to come in 2018. So absolutely, it's a time to meet people throughout the state.
Kelly, last question, because we're running out of time. What do you want to accomplish? This is going to be your first convention. If you told me you had been to 3 already, I would have. This is your first convention. What do you want to accomplish on a personal level going to Philadelphia?
On a personal level? That's a good question. So I am so excited to be going. I think that it's a really good chance for me to represent the millennials. And I think that's what I'm most excited for, is to have that representation there, because there aren't that many young people involved in politics, and I think it's important for people to see that young people do care, because this is our future, and it's very important that we get involved young.
So do you imagine yourself connecting with some of the millennials throughout the state of Ohio?
Yes, for sure, and not even just throughout the state of Ohio. We actually have already started interacting with millennial delegates from all across the country.
Well, thank you for being here, and I want to say to Kelly, and I've told her this on the phone, this is the way I got involved when I was a college student for Gene McCarthy. Working for Gene McCarthy, he only ran in a couple of districts in Ohio in 1968. But that was my way of getting involved, and it's eye-opening to see how this all works, and you come away with a very different view, and you can end up spending your whole life interacting with politicians and finding out there are people on both sides who are trying to do good for the community.
It's true.
So have a good week, and we'll see how it turns out.
Thanks for having us.
Stay tuned after the break. A look at the revitalized downtown YMCA that reopened this week. In 1917, former President William Howard Taft laid the cornerstone for the Central Parkway YMCA. In addition to being a meeting place for many community leaders, it provided dormitories, a cafeteria, and a barber shop, as well as exercise and sports facilities. This week, the venerable Central Parkway YMCA reopened to the public after nearly 2 years of renovation, and proudly declared that they are up and running. Inside are furnished exercise facilities with the latest equipment and even a saline pool. Welcome back. The revitalized and renovated Central Parkway YMCA at the entrance to Over the Rhine is poised once again to provide needed services and engage the community in new ways and in many ways. I am joined now by Sandy Walker, the YMCA of Greater Cincinnati. Ms. Walker has been with the YMCA here in Cincinnati. Well, she's been with the YMCA for 35 years, and in Washington, but also in Washington, Philadelphia, and Boston before assuming her position here in Cincinnati in 2005. The 2,000 employees of the local YMCA deliver programs to over 130,000 individuals at sites throughout our region. And Jesiah Brock, the Associate Executive Director of the Central Parkway YMCA, essentially the person in charge of the revitalized facility. So you get all the new stuff, you get all the worries. Is that well, first off, congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much.
Really amazing. And this is just a little point that is of interest to me, and it's My father graduated in 1941 from the YMCA College of Law, or School of Law, in that building, because most people don't remember that that was what we call Chase Law School today. So this building has had lots of roles in our community over the years. So what's your vision for this new revitalized facility?
Well, you know, the YMCA is about strengthening the foundations of community, Dan, and we are so excited to have a new tool to bring people together of all walks of life and all background to be together at the Y and work together on being healthy and strong. Population health and preventing chronic disease is one of the new focus areas of the YMCA. We'll always be there with scholarships and opportunity for people to engage with each other, but we can help our whole community be healthier, and this facility is a great tool for that.
Jesiah, what excites you about the new facility and all the things that are at the facility?
I'm really excited about the opportunity to create community. And so the Central Parkway Y is really the perfect marriage of the new and the historic all together. And I think that really signifies what OTR has become.
Yeah, and that's the point I was hoping you'd get to, because you're right there at the entrance to OTR, and OTR is just changing and has changed over the last decade, and the Y has always tried to be the common ground where people, like you were saying, Sandy, people of all different backgrounds can come together. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, so you know, our YMCA, when you enter, there's a living room. So a place where people can be together, have informal conversation, or plan how they can do more in our community. We're going to welcome new professionals, new residents in Over the Rhine and downtown, and we're also going to welcome back members who have been part of our Y for 50 years. I talked to a gentleman the other day who remembers walking into the old Covington Y in Northern Kentucky holding his dad's hand at age 8. And now all those kids are part of our YMCA in new locations, and this Central Parkway is one of those.
Yeah. Inside, the facilities that you have are amazing, but the one that fascinates me is the saline pool, and we've got some footage of that. Tell me about that. I'm not a big swimmer, but why a saline pool? Because it's your only pool, right?
Yes.
You don't have two pools, and this is one of them.
Only one.
What's the advantage?
So a saline pool, it doesn't use chlorine directly, and so it's not as harsh on your body, on your skin, on your nail, and in your hair and your clothes. And I think you're a little bit more buoyant as well. And so it's a more refreshing swim. Yes, and so it's a more refreshing swim. And so we're hoping that our patrons will enjoy it.
Okay, and also there is a nice blend of the old and the new, in the sense we have some footage from the gym and the new track that goes, the walking track or running track that goes around the top of that, which the feel of the old building is still there, but it's a very different sense of what's available up top.
I think the renovation, you know, we're so happy to partner with Messer and CR for this. They've really found a way to bring out the glory of the history and still have it be modern and fresh. We have light coming through in places that we never imagined we could capture. And so I think that that's symbolic, that we really want to be a beacon in this part of the community. This is a pillar of our whole delivery system. We have 14 facilities in Greater Cincinnati, Dan, and when you join One Y, you can go to any of our facilities, and this is a jewel, the next opportunity for all the community to be healthy and strong.
You know, one of the things that's really important here too, and anybody who's seen that building and who's been inside knows that a lot of the space is living space. It always has been living space. How is that going to be used now, Jesiah?
So we actually contracted that out to the Episcopal Retirement Services, and that'll be affordable housing for seniors. And they'll have access to the YMCA as well, and we'll create some affordable ways that they can be members of the YMCA and really just join our community.
So what kind of facilities would a senior citizen, and I'm presuming, I don't know how that's defined, but or who's eligible, but what are those facilities like? Because I know you put a lot of work. That's a huge building. In terms of the bulk of the building, there's a lot there.
There will be apartments, 1 and 2 bedroom apartments for seniors, and there's 65 of those units. And they go up to the 8th floor, so beautiful views of the city and really respectful and fresh facilities right in downtown and Over the Rhine for seniors to have a wonderful place to live.
So, last question for you.
Okay.
What are you most excited?
I'm most excited about the opportunity just to create something new for people that have been there, and then to create something amazing for people that have no expectations yet. So it's just opportunity, and it really is endless. And as we say, it's renewed and it's refreshed, and we're ready for people to come on down and check it out.
Yeah, I mean, you can go. I want to make sure people know how to get there. If you want to find out more about what the reimagined Central Parkway YMCA has to offer, go to their website at myy.org/downtown, or you can call 513-382-YMCA. Thank you for making Newsmakers a part of your Sunday morning. Join us again next week to meet the men and women working to shape our region for a better future. Have a good week.